Okay, so let's start with an image. Picture some hills, gentle hills, maybe somewhere familiar, bathed in sunlight. Feels nice, right?
Yeah, familiar, maybe even comforting.
Right. Now picture those exact same hills, but instead of just sunlight, they're lined with tactical gear, armored vehicles. You hear the click of rifles,
Hmm.
families being dragged from homes. It's deeply unsettling. But, for way too many people, this isn't imaginary, it's real.
And that jarring contrast, that's exactly where our source for this deep dive kicks off. It's Sunday Musings on Uncountry and the Lives That Build It by Jaime Hoerricks.
Hoerricks, PhD.
Right. And Hoerricks just throws us right into this really powerful reflection on borders, state violence, and, well, the grief involved in teaching when your city feels like it's under siege.
So our mission today really is to dig into Hoerricks' ideas, how language gets used to, I guess, hide really brutal things.
Yeah, to obscure reality,
Mhm.
and how state power shows up in everyday life.
And importantly, this call from the author to imagine otherwise. When you're facing these systems that seem totally locked in.
Exactly. It starts, interestingly, with a reference to Ursula K. Guin's fictional hills places, known by memory, by rhythm.
But then, bam, the contrast. The real hills near Los Angeles County, patrolled by ICE agents, Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
It's a really smart way to start, isn't it? It grounds the whole thing. You're not just
Uh,
talking ideas, you're seeing, as Horrocks puts it, the real ones near L.A. County.
Not Golden Light, but ICE's agents. Tactical gear, masked, anonymous.
Dragging families out beneath the same sun. Horrocks mentions the desert quiet, but it's broken by, like, the hum of armored vehicles and that sound of rifles. It's visceral.
And this jump from the familiar hills to this militarized scene leads Horrocks to say something pretty stark. That this is what bureaucracy becomes when its teeth are bared. Armed policy, basically, marching under the cover of law.
Right. It completely reframes how you might think of a bureaucracy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just paperwork. It can be physical violence.
Armed policy. Wow.
And it's not just the actions. It's the language used to justify them.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of Hoerricks' analysis.
Well, like what kind of language?
Well, the author looks at rhetoric from people like Stephen Miller. Phrases like no wait times or smaller classrooms used when talking about essentially emptying parts of Los Angeles.
Okay. So presented as improvements.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Hoerricks flips that, calls them euphemisms, erasure rebranded as efficiency, and even suggests that for Miller, class size reduction is a stand-in for ethnic cleansing.
That's heavy interpretation. How does Horrocks connect seemingly harmless policy talk to something that extreme?
The argument is that empire, well, it often speaks softly when it orders the death of a people. It hides extermination in policy language.
So like border security becomes
A linguistic veil for state terror is how Horrocks puts it. The idea is to make it all sound neutral, maybe even boring, so that cruelty gets hidden. We're supposed to be grateful for the, quote, forced quiet that comes after the last child is taken. It's about sanitizing violence with careful words.
chilling. And this use of language, this idea of hidden meanings, brings us to another key reference, right? From Ursula K. Le Guin again.
Yeah, from The Left Hand of Darkness. It's a fantastic quote. What is love of one's country? Is it hate of one's uncountry? Then it's not a good thing.
Hate of one's uncountry. That's a powerful phrase. How does Horace connect that to today?
Well, it ties into this idea that the border isn't just a line on a map. It's a scar on the land, a scar on people's lives. And the raid itself, Hoerricks calls it a liturgy.
A liturgy, like a religious ritual.
Kind of, yeah. Suggesting this ritualized, almost sacred performance of violence by the state.
Which then makes you question those foundational ideas like self-evident truths. Hoerricks pushes back on that.
Hard. Argues the truths were always conditional. That, liberty, pursuit of happiness, protection, that was only ever meant for some lives.
Not for everyone.
No. Hoerricks specifically mentions brown lives, undocumented lives, trans lives, disabled lives. These are lives subject to proof. You have to prove you deserve rights.
And if you can't,
Yeah.
or aren't allowed to.
Then the rights just aren't given. They're withheld until you, quote, vanish.
Wow. Which leads to that really stark line.
Yeah. This country has always demanded receipts for humanity. You have to prove you're human enough to deserve basic dignity.
Receipts for humanity. And this demand, this constant need for proof, it has a real devastating cost, especially for kids, for students. Hoerricks writes from experience here as a teacher in LA.
Absolutely. describes just how incredibly hard it is to even start a school year when hallways feel like checkpoints.
God, yeah.
When your students are living in fear that their family members could disappear any day. Hoerricks gives this example. Trying to teach analytical trig to a student whose uncle vanished 2 days before.
How do you even do that?
Right, the student flinches at the sound of heavy boots. It's just impossible for everyone involved.
And the state, the system, what does it offer in response?
According to Hoerricks, no answers, only forms. Forms, truancy officers, ICE forms, and masked men with guns guarding intersections like they're storming Fallujah. That comparison to Fallujah really lands, the sense of urban warfare.
Yeah, it paints a picture.
And Hoerricks observes that the mask has slipped in the city. Any idea of sanctuary? Gone. It's just surveillance and steel.
And it's targeted, isn't it? The author is specific about where these raids happen.
Very specific. Lists places. Camarillo, Bell Gardens, El Monte, Southgate, Oxnard.
Right.
Mentions strawberry fields where 12-year-olds are working legally.
Legally.
Yeah. Or 14-year-olds being pulled out of corporate marijuana grows. And the point Hoerricks makes is crucial. They come for the workers, never the bosses.
Right.
They break no laws, only bodies. They shatter no systems, only homes. It's about managing the labor force, extracting value, displacing people, but keeping the underlying economic system intact.
And the trauma of all this.
It nests in the lungs of children, like wildfire, smoke, slow, choking, permanent. That image just stops you, doesn't it? It really does. Slow, choking, permanent.
So teaching pedagogy, it becomes more than just curriculum. Hoerricks sees it as care, it's protection, it's shelter.
But then the fear is, what happens when you can't even offer that? When the shelter itself is breached.
Exactly, which leads back to that need, that imperative, to imagine something different. Hoerricks looks to Le Guin's worlds again.
As an invitation?
Yeah.
Imagine otherwise.
Yeah. Worlds where gender is not a site of punishment, kinship is not assigned through DNA, and allegiance is not demanded in exchange for survival.
It's a call for a fundamentally different way of organizing society, isn't it?
Absolutely. And Hoerricks connects this failure of imagination, or maybe this refusal to imagine differently, to Hannah Arendt's work.
On the banality of evil.
Right. That idea that evil doesn't always shout, it manages. It files paperwork, organizes removal, wears suits, smiles for cameras.
It's systemic. It's systemic, and Hoerricks frames it as history fulfilled. This isn't some terrible mistake. It's the endpoint, the promise of settler colonialism. It always leads here. To enclosure, to expulsion, to erasure.
So it's not an aberration, it's the system working as intended, in this view.
That's the argument being made, yeah.
But amidst all that, Hoerricks does try to find glimpses of that otherwise. Describes students comforting each other, parents speaking up despite trembling hands, the school farm blooming.
Right, these moments of defiance, of humanity persisting, but it's not presented as simple hope. Hoerricks is very clear about refusing hollow hope.
What does that mean, hollow hope?
It means not writing something uplifting without fully facing the grief.
Yeah.
Critiquing words like resilience when they're just used to make ongoing harm seem acceptable. Like, oh, they're resilient, they can take it.
Right, it puts the burden back on the victims.
Exactly, and that leads to some really direct challenges in the writing. Hoerricks calls out people who use terms like illegal immigrants, saying they're basically parroting genocide in polite tones.
Wow, strong words.
Yeah, and tells anyone who thinks smaller classrooms are worth this human cost that they are not fit to teach. But the most powerful message, I think, is saved for the students.
What's the message to them?
You're not a burden. You are not too many. You are the reason I come back. Even when the world burns, even when the masks march in.
That's incredibly moving. It centers the humanity that the system tries to erase.
Precisely.
So this whole deep dive, it really leaves us with this stark contrast, doesn't it? The world we have, the surveillance and steel.
Versus the world that could be, where love, as Hoerricks puts it, borrowing from Le Guin perhaps, refuses the boundary line of hate.
It puts the question of belonging, borders, and just basic humanity right at the center.
And it all circles back to that final, really profound thought from Hoerricks. Love, real love does not have a boundary line of hate.
Real love doesn't have a boundary line of hate. So maybe the question for you listening is, what would that actually mean for how you think about belonging or community? If love truly had no boundary line of hate, how does that change what it means to build a country or just a home? Something to think about.